So today I'll be talking about my experience studying psychoanalytic literature versus actually working with an analyst and the contrast between the two. So I got introduced to psychoanalysis through Jung back in 2020, so the early golden COVID days. So the first book I actually read was Man and His Symbols, so right here. And I had a very strong attraction and resonance with Jungian psychoanalysis, mainly because I was I am a visual artist, and I have a strong association with art, literature, and mythology. So Man and His Symbols was my gateway drug into this world of psychoanalysis. And I continued to read Jung for the following 2 years. So from 2020 to 2022, I was balls deep into Jung and Nietzsche, and I read a lot of Jung, and I was familiarizing myself with Freud through Jung, but I was very pro Jung, anti Freud. And it's only been recently where I kind of transitioned, and I would say last year was when I started to return to the OG, Freud, through Lacan. So I'll just read out the comment that the person wrote, and they said, "How was the process from study to theory to search and start working with an analyst? I have been studying theory for a year now, but so far I have not been able to earn or save money for an analyst." And honestly, that's the hard part, just like paying the analyst. But I'll start off by saying that it's very it depends on your relationship with the analyst. If they like to talk about, uh, you know, uh, uh, intellectual, psychoanalytic concepts in the sessions. From my experience, it didn't go very well, mainly because uh, I found that I use kind of I use these I use jargon words, and I use psychoanalytic concepts to kind of distract myself and escape from the actual conversation. So I would say that's a big one of the big things to keep in mind. Like most likely you'll kind of use that as a way to distract yourself from the core of the session. Another thing though is studying theory is it's more about you and the world, like you're building and creating and connecting concepts, and it's you realizing and coming to conclusions about the world in and of itself, and within the context of psychoanalysis, you're building those concepts in relation to the psyche, so it's very abstract, and it's I wouldn't say it's like objective, but like it's impersonal, you're not dealing with your own personal, like you're not dealing with examples from your own personal life. You could be when you're reading these authors, and these thinkers, you could put yourself in the shoes of certain examples and certain case studies, and I do that a lot, and there's great benefit from that. But in analysis, and when you're actually in a session, it's way more you, and it's your language, so and the analyst can detect when you're using your own language, versus using Lacan or Freud or Jung or whoever. Uh, so I find that when I'm reading and I'm kind of, or writing, or studying theory, uh, like you could be using concepts from these thinkers. You could be talking about the symbolic, you can be talking about the imaginary, the real, the collective unconscious, the Oedipal complex. But when you're in a session and you say, yeah, well, I think that I have a strong mother complex, and you're like, okay, so then what? If you have all the answers, why are you in analysis? And then that becomes the subject of analysis. Why do you have the urge to intellectualize everything and turn everything into this conceptual game of just throwing around concepts and stuff? And I can only speak for myself, and I can say that for me, most of the time it's defense mechanisms. And I find it that, like, when I'm speaking with my own words, and like, very, very far from these strong concepts, just everyday words, slips of the tongue or whatever, I find greater insight in my personal life than coming into the session with this sophisticated and fully articulated concept of why I am the way I am, and how I came to that conclusion. And another thing too is that, like, in these sessions, like, it doesn't matter what you say. Like, everything gets everything gets put into question. Why do you feel the need to talk about these writers? Why do you feel the need to talk about these philosophers? When you're talking to, like, a student, or like you're talking to, like, your buddy who's into philosophy, you guys could go on hours and hours talking about these concepts and stuff, and it gets so sophisticated, and it's nice. But when you're in a session, and you go off on this rant, on this conceptual rant, why do you feel the need to talk about this author? I'll give an example. Like, one person that I keep quoting a lot in my session is Franz Kafka, and I haven't read a lot of Franz Kafka. I've only read the Metamorphosis, and I never knew that I had a strong association with him. And there has been a number of times where I'm like, yeah, I feel like Gregor Samsa or whatever, and I keep quoting the beginning of the book, and then she's like, all right, so why do you, like, why Franz Kafka? Why the Metamorphosis? And then, like, I'm like, and then, like, you build off of the associations you have with the author, or with that thinker, or whoever you're quoting, and then it becomes more personal. It's like, yeah, well, he's like, the Gregor Samsa is he feels very alienated, have a strong association, or have a strong attraction to the sense of alienation. So then the conversation shifts from this intellectual analysis of Franz Kafka and how Franz Kafka wrote the Metamorphosis into alienation, and then you explore alienation. So when have you felt alienated, or most of the time, like, the questions aren't that direct, at least for me. It's more like, just keep building off of that association. So yeah, like, it becomes like that. It becomes more personal, rather than this impersonal quest for knowledge, and you're building this conceptual landscape of these thinkers, and like, you're not reading a paper. So that's the main difference with studying theory and being analysis. studying theory is impersonal, and it's a you're creating concepts, connecting different concepts, coming to uh, realizations about the world, about you and the world. Whereas in analysis, it's you and you, right? You and the other. Um, yeah. And another thing too, just a small point about the money, the money side of things, right? But so far, I have not been able to earn or save money for an analyst. That depends on the analyst, man. Like, I was lucky enough to come to an understanding with my analyst, and I've seen that happen a few times with other people where the analyst kind of, comes to an understanding and say, hey, if you can't do my $300 for my 5-minute variable length session, what can you come to terms with? What can you bring to the table? And I was lucky enough to come to terms with my analyst, and I was able to find a reasonable price for the sessions. But analysts are notorious for their prices, so that's very hit or miss. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Let me know if you guys want me to talk about anything else. Hit me up on my email. Let me know if you guys want to have a talk or a meeting or whatever the fuck. I'm down for anything. So yeah, peace.